As humans, we are sensory creatures. Without our five senses, we would be unable to experience and interpret the world around us. Finnish architect Juhani Palasma believes that good architecture awakens the senses and strengthens our sense of reality and self. In his landmark volume, Eyes of the Skin, he writes, "The elements of architecture are not visual units or gestalt. They are encounters, confrontations that interact with memory." Cape Town Slave Lodge was built in 1679 to house the slaves owned by the Dutch East India Company.
Good architecture tells us something about the world. It tells us something about history. It tells us about culture, how the society works, and finally it tells us, each one of us, who we are.
As an example of Cape Dutch architecture, the facade welcomes people in with rich ornamentation and generous fenestration. Inside, the high ceilings, cool stone floors, intricate detailing, and carefully crafted woodwork invite a sense of touch. The way these surfaces are worn with time hold the memory of countless people who passed through. However, when the building housed slaves, it looked very different to the Cape Dutch building I visited. It was intentionally designed to make the slaves feel trapped, dehumanized, and subservient to the company. As a result, the architecture created feelings of imprisonment within the building's inhabitants. The building is an example of courtyard-centered design, which means facilities are arranged around a central open space. Many prisons make use of this layout because it creates feelings of surveillance and control, as slaves were visibly confined and surveilled from all sides. The building had no proper fenestration, only a few narrow, barred slits. This created a dark environment with almost no natural light or fresh air. In 1803, building inspector Louis Thibault reported that the interior was so dim that lanterns were needed, even during daylight hours. Light and air are crucial for creating a welcoming spatial experience, and without them, the building felt oppressive. Khayelitsha, meaning new home in Xhosa, is a large township located southeast of Cape Town. It was officially established in 1983 by the apartheid government as a resettlement area for black residents who were forcibly removed from other parts of Cape Town. The area was poorly planned, with limited infrastructure, overcrowding, and very little opportunity for formal employment. However, as the government failed to meet housing demands, people took construction into their own hands. Incremental architecture in Khayelitsha involves a participatory building process where Khayelitsha residents develop their homes according to their individual needs. Juhani Palasma writes in his work, Eyes of the Skin, "Buildings and cities provide the horizon for the understanding and confronting of the human existential condition. Instead of creating mere objects of visual seduction, architecture relates, mediates, and projects meanings." Architecture is not just about physical structures, but about emotions that those structures evoke. As Khayelitsha's community has grown, the built environment has become a vessel for both collective memory and identity. The township's evolution shows that architecture, at its core, is inseparable from the emotional and historical life of its people. If I ask you to think of a prison, you'd likely picture something similar to the Slave Lodge in 1679. But Halden Prison in Norway is designed with a different approach. The facility is designed not to restrict, but to rehabilitate its inmates. The underlying philosophy behind humane prison design argues that the feel of a prison shouldn't be a punishment.
Architecture is not out there, it is a mediation between the world and our minds. Good architecture enables us to live a more dignified life.
Rather than punishing inmates through oppressive space, humane prisons like Halden are designed to foster dignity, rehabilitation, and a sense of self. Halden replaces the traditional image of confinement with gardens, art, and views of nature. Instead of a typical courtyard design, Halden is laid out in a campus design, where facilities are split between separate buildings. Therefore, inmates must start their day with a commute. Commuting lessens feelings of isolation as it mimics life in the outside world. In line with Palasma's thinking, Halden's architecture mediates between the world and the individual. It is an example of good design as it reminds inmates that they are still part of society, still human, and still deserving of spaces that speak to their worth.